Pleased to bring in with us a senior fellow at the Foundation for Defense of Democracies, Behnam Ben Taleblu, an Iranian expert who's testified in front of Congress, has been at the forefront of tracking a wide range of topics, nuclear nonproliferation, and also the Islamic Republic, security and foreign policy. Sir, thank you so much for joining us. As we look at where we are right now, obviously we will watch the next few hours as these drones and missiles land. But this is something that Iran clearly felt emboldened to do. And you have to wonder exactly what it was that sort of gave it that. They are saying, obviously, it's the Syria, but I think it is also pointed to the Biden administration, the appeasement for many, many years and decades dating back to Obama that has brought us to this dangerous moment.
Well, thank you. It's a pleasure to be with you. Unfortunately, there's a straight line of foreign policy failures dating back many years now to contain and constrain and roll back the regime's unmanned aerial threat capabilities. In fact, you've seen the Islamic Republic become the largest ballistic missile arsenal, or home to the largest ballistic missile arsenal in the Middle East. It's layered on significant land attack cruise missile capabilities and highly significant, cheaper, poor man cruise missiles, also known as suicide drones or one-way attack drones. Those are likely the majority of the projectiles that the Islamic Republic fired today at Israel. And make no mistake, what allowed Iran to cross this red line was a sense of overconfidence, that America does not want to get involved further in the Middle East, that America is a paper tiger or retreating power on the way out, and that for the first time ever, the regime could indeed make and break history by authorizing a strike from its own territory against the Jewish state in the Middle East. So there's lots of undistributed middles here and things we can unpack about senses of emboldenment and what more enforced sanctions could have done to change this, what military deterrence against Iran by America and Israel and others much, much earlier could have done. But the fact of the matter now is that these drones and missiles are underway, and this is indeed a game changer for an already complex region with a 6-month war already raging in it.
Well said. In fact, Iranian state media are saying Tehran has launched its first wave of ballistic missiles at Israel. Lydia, I know, also is part of this conversation here, and we have another guest would like to bring in to talk about the incoming and what we're seeing and hearing from the ground and reports out of media.
Yes, as you just said, Bianca, Iranian state media says Tehran has launched the first wave of ballistic missiles at Israel. We're also hearing about at least 100 drones. We're hearing different reports of dozens of drones. Also, let's bring in our panel with us, Ryan Macbeth. He is open source intelligence analyst. Thank you so much, sir, for joining us.
Absolutely. Thank you for having me.
Ryan, of course, the major concern is, will this be expanding to a wider conflict? Do you expect casualties in Israel? What do you think, sir?
I certainly see that happening. With the ballistic missiles combined with the slow-moving drones, possibly missiles fired by Hezbollah in the north, it's all designed to overwhelm the Iron Dome defense system, so that way everything kind of lands at once. Israel will shoot some of them down. They know how to do that. Some will get through. There may be some casualties if they get through. As for retaliation, I don't see how we can't retaliate. Isolationism and appeasement is like building walls of your fortress so high that you can't see beyond them to the threat outside. We are going to have to respond.
Here, the question is, we're waiting to get more information from Joe Biden. We know that he left Delaware today to come back to Washington. What would the response be? But obviously, it's been frosty, to put it nicely, between him and Israel and Netanyahu. So now it comes to this inflection point where the U.S., not only here, but also abroad, we do have strategic Navy and stations. So could we help with the deterrence? And if so, Iran's been pretty clear, don't get involved. So then again, this conflict goes somewhere where none of us really want it to go, for Israel or the world.
Absolutely. But, the United States isn't just a shield against Israel. This goes beyond Israel. The United States shields the world against this death cult of Iran's government. We have destroyers in the Mediterranean Sea that can launch Tomahawk cruise missiles. We have the USS Eisenhower that's in the Red Sea right now as well. They'll be able to strike Iran. Most likely, it would strike Iran's naval assets, its drone production facilities, and command and control facilities. That's what I think we might see should the president decide to act.
Behnam Ben Taleblu is also with us, and he has been studying Iran for decades now and really gave us a full range of some of the weaponry that they have. We're in the early hours, obviously. Do you think they're holding back on anything right now as to see what the U.S. does, in fact? And they've obviously been thinking about what they would do since, well, April the 1st in Damascus, what the response would be.
Yeah, it just depends a great deal, in fact, on the target. You know, for example, that the Iranians had threatened to restart the Shia militia attacks against the U.S. force presence in Iraq and Syria. Those are attacks that could be conducted with mortars, rockets, IRAMs, close-range ballistic missiles, and even drones. And indeed, all of those things had been targeting the U.S. force presence in the region for the past 6 months, about 170-odd times, with a very poor U.S. response ratio against them. I think it's been under 20 to about 170 attacks, so not much deterrence reestablished there. Also of note, Iranian semi-official state media tied to the IRGC is now hinting at the type of suicide drone, the one-way attack drone that Iran employed in these swarms. That is the Shahed 136. That's essentially the same version Iran has began to proliferate to the Russians starting in 2022 and helping them build a version of in Tatarstan in Russia. It's also the version Iran has fired at a civilian tanker in 2021, if I'm not mistaken, killing a British and Romanian national. So there is a bloody track record for this projectile that Iran has sent this way towards Israel. And perhaps most importantly, on the ballistic missile front, which has a totally different trajectory and flight path than the land attack cruise missiles or the suicide drones. These things go high and fast. Israel has some of the most robust air and missile defenses in the world, if not entirely in that region. But these things, you know, quantity has a quality of its own. So if they are designed to overwhelm and come in salvos, the low and slow drone threat and the high and fast ballistic missile threat could indeed prove lethal if it is in a concentrated area of fire. To date, the Iranians have not said really what their targets was, but they've simply said in the Persian language press that these are targets in the occupied territories.
That's kind of what Blaine Holt was saying.
Ryan.
Barrage, barrage, barrage. Go ahead, Lydia, sorry.
Yeah. Oh, sure. No worries. Ryan, so I have to ask you, with Iran attacking Israel, Israel is a strong, possibly the strongest ally of the United States. How vulnerable are we here in the United States? Do you think Americans should be fearful? Could there possibly be an attack here? Of course, we have a wide open southern border, 10 million men, mostly men of military age. They're residing now here in the United States. The police commissioner here in New York City saying openly that right now there is no way to vet these people. They have no idea who these illegal aliens are. So, sir, how vulnerable is the United States for a terror attack, for some sort of attack to happen here?
Well, as Americans, we shouldn't be fearful, but we should definitely be aware. There is a non-zero chance that a country like Iran has brought in foreign agents through the Mexican border, and that is certainly something that we can be watchful for and deal with when it happens, or we can take measures against Iran to let them know that we hit you this hard when you decided to do this to a global partner in the world. And now, if you decide to conduct any other kind of terror attack, we will rain down fire and fury upon you if you choose to do that.
Right. Of course, it reminds me of President Reagan. What did he say? Peace through strength. And then President Trump, he also continued that sentiment. I'll ask you both this question. Do you think this attack would be happening? Would Iran be so emboldened if President Trump was in the White House?
You know, let me take a quick stab at that. I think, unfortunately, there has been, certainly President Trump's foreign and security policy vis-a-vis the Islamic Republic has been comparably better. The problem is, of course, on the hard threats, on the terrorism threat and on the unmanned aerial threat, there is a straight line of about 2.5, 3 decades of foreign and security policy failure. from all the mayhem and mischief they have caused and the attacks on U.S. and coalition persons in Afghanistan and in Iraq via proxy and via the IRGC themselves, their support essentially scot-free to the Assad regime in Syria to keep their sole state patron there. The fact that the biggest ballistic missile barrage in the history of the United States of America after World War II came from the Islamic Republic in January 2020, and we, the U.S., did not respond to that. All of this stuff fed into a botched deterrence equation such that when President Biden recently said, don't, the Iranians must have chuckled.
And what do you think, Ryan, real quick? Do you think this would all be happening if President Trump was in office?
That's an excellent question. I think we all know President Trump's feelings toward Iran. Iran would certainly not be doing this with $10 billion had he been in charge.
Succinct and to the point. Thank you both so much for joining us, gentlemen.
Thank you.
Thank you.